All right, so lipids are a little different from the carbs and the proteins. Here we can picture chains, whether the chains may branch, they may not branch. But here it's more definitive, and it's exactly what I wrote there. The triglyceride is the macro form, but we have glycerol and 1, 2, or 3 fatty acids. That's it, nothing else. So the in-between forms would be a monoglyceride or a diglyceride. And most of you probably remember, either from biology or from your personal review of biology, that all a phospholipid is a diglyceride with a phosphate group on carbon 3, and that's what gives it the hydrophilic polar end versus the hydrophobic nonpolar tails. Functional groups that react. So in carbohydrate chemistry, it's 2 hydroxyl groups that react. In protein chemistry, an amine group on 1 amino acid reacts with the hydroxyl component of the carboxyl group on the other amino acid. And okay, that's hard to read. So this says an amine group on 1 amino acid reacts with the hydroxyl component of the carboxyl group on the other amino acid. I know you have all reviewed these recently, but just to remind you, so that's a carbonyl group. That's a hydroxyl group. When we put the hydroxyl group on the carbonyl, it gives us the carboxyl. Hydroxyl plus carbonyl equals carboxyl. So we're saying here the hydroxyl component of the carboxyl group. And of course the amine group, as you know, looks like this, NH2. In lipid chemistry, a hydroxyl group on glycerol reacts with the hydroxyl component of the carboxyl group on the fatty acid. Our last column, remember this red is just extraneous stuff. Name of the bond. For 150 extra points, what's the name of the bond in proteins between 2 amino acids? Peptide bond. Who said that? 150 extra points, okay? You email me because I'll forget to give them to you. In fact, with that number of extra points, you don't even have to take the final. Do you believe me? If you do, you can text me at 1-800-I-DON'T. 250 extra points. What's the name of the bond between two monosaccharides and carbs? Come on, guys. Reviewing your prerequisite material is number 1 on the survival guide. You're supposed to do that the very first weekend. Anybody? You all know, you're just embarrassed. Don't want to look like smart Alex. Glycosidic bond. And finally, lastly, in lipids, what do you call the bond between glycerol and a fatty acid? It's also a person's name.
Ester bond?
Ester bond. The chart. So I type this up or print this up. I make it super pretty. Put it on a 5x7-inch index card. Have it where you can pull it out in the time span of an eye blink when you need to.
Can you leave that last one?
Sure. And so as we go through carbs, as we go through proteins, as we go through lipids, you probably refer back to this. So the next topic for us, Roman numeral 4, I recently added to the lecture notes. It's always been on the prerequisite document, and one of the TAs or lab assistants, I don't know what the person is, because I can't remember who it was, but one of them said, you know, I had so-and-so for Biology 111, and he or she didn't cover hydrocarbons. You're assuming that they bring that information to your class, and putting it on the prerequisite document is something they need to review, just like the functional groups. But I just wanted you to know that I had so-and-so and he or she didn't cover them. So I added it, I think I may have left it on the prerequisite document, but I moved it to the lecture notes as well. So our organic chemistry, biochemistry discussion begins with hydrocarbons. I haven't taught Biology 111 in more than 20 years, but I certainly covered them when I taught it, so I was surprised when the TA told me that their teacher didn't cover them. So if you've covered them, if you've already reviewed them, great. You get a second dose of it from me. And in the interest of time and a good stopping point, this is where I'm stopping. This is where we will begin. So I'm not going to try to do something in 7 or 8 minutes that I need 20 or 30 minutes to do. So are there any questions? Everybody knows they have 2 lab quizzes next week in lab. It's going to seem like 3 because the solutions quiz comes into 2 parts. Here's page 1. You can't use a calculator. It's mathless math. That page will have these types of problems. What's the answer there? 3%. Because what's percent? Grams over 100. You were given 0.3 in 10, so that's 3 over 100, so that's 3%. So page 1 will be the mathless math, no calculator. Page 2 will be the big ones, where you've got to use your periodic table, you've got to use calculators.
Should we bring our own periodic table?
You are welcome to bring your own periodic table. There is one in the lab, but if you can't see it, you're welcome to have your own. It And then, of course, those 2 pages will be graded as one document. That constitutes the solutions quiz, that's 50 points. And then the other one is the intro to A&P, or intro to whatever it's called, you got a syllabus, you can look. Intro to A&P quiz, and that's another separate quiz, another 50 points. Anything else? Any questions? All right, you guys have a nice rest of the day, and I'll see you next week.
Does anybody need a set of the DVDs? I have an